Okay, middle linebacker. I found this one to be the easiest because there's nothing here. There's not a starter.
No.
They like Luke Gifford, I guess, is under contract. Otis Reese, I guess, is under contract. Chance Campbell is under contract. They're both FAs, which are I even looked it up and now I forgot. It's like exclusive rights free agency, I think is the term. Obviously, you have Azeez Al-Shaair, Gibbons, all off the books at this point, so they can choose to bring one of those guys back. I think most people think Al-Shaair will be back, but either way, there are no starters.
I don't know.
I'm not sure there's a starter who's even under the depth pieces that are clearly scout team players. I'm not sure there's even a starter there either.
Well, yeah, I look at it. I said there's a long shot starter, and first off, you have this long shot starter can also be a depth piece with Chance Campbell and Luke Gifford, which Luke Gifford probably maybe even will get cut. So I don't even know, he's teetering on that line. But Otis Reese, I'm not here to say that he's like a potential start. He's a long shot starter, but he's violent. He has maximum effort. He's fast and athletic. He's this kind of stuff that they were describing, and he put out some really good stuff on tape. He's a long shot starter. If he is your primary linebacker, you're in trouble. If he's your secondary linebacker, you may be all right. But he should be a rotational piece. But again, long shot starter. Azeez Al-Shaair, I think he's testing the market, and I think he's probably going to end up back with San Francisco, and here's why. He was signed to a one-year deal, right? One-year deal player, and he's still relatively young. One-year deal players typically are in a prove-it year, right? They're trying not only to prove it to the team that signed him, but they are proving it to the entire NFL. And the biggest knock on Azeez Al-Shaair was, can he play 17 games? And he played 17 games. He had 108 solo tackles for 5th in the league, 49 assisted tackles for 5th in the league. He was tied for 11th in the league in run stop rate at 9.6%. David Long was just 10.7% run stop rate. So there wasn't a huge difference, and I kept trying to tell people that. But they want to look, oh, well, the PFF run grade says, well, yeah, but I mean, think of the defensive line difference between what the Titans have and what the Dolphins had last year. But at the end of the day, the raw stats tell you, the advanced stats tell you that he had a damn good year, and he did it playing 17 games, playing a ridiculous amount of snaps, hardly ever came off the field. And so he answered a big question for him and his agent. And to the NFL, can you play a full 17 games and be an above average NFL starting inside linebacker?
Yeah.
And he answered yes to both those questions. I'm not so sure that he is going to come back and Dre Greenlaw tearing his Achilles.
Yeah, at the last minute. Yeah.
And guess who was down there pregame?
Yeah.
With the
hyping him up. Yeah.
Hyping him up.
All right.
I would love them to come back, but kind of like Sean Murphy Bunting, I'm not convinced that he is coming back.
So there's a lot there. I'm going to try to react to some of it because I agree with D Good here on Otis Reese. He's a good 3 right now. I think that's exactly right. I think he makes the team. I think Otis Reese is going to make the roster. I don't think he should be a starting linebacker. I think he's a good backup piece and a nice rotational piece. I will say, going to camp last year, he was noticeable every time he was on the field. He was noticeable. And then I think he put some good film, to your point, together in the last couple of weeks of the season. I think Azeez Al-Shaair is a really, really high-end number 2 middle linebacker. I think he's one of the best high-end number 2 linebackers, but he is not the dog like that is like a superstar. Like when you look at Nick Bolton or Fred Warner or, Roquan Smith or like these guys.
They also have running mates, by the way, that are not Jack Gibby.
True, very true. Which brings me to my last
entire
point.
Defense around those linebackers are really, really good. Who is a linebacker that was in a similar situation as Azeez Al-Shaair and put up those kinds of numbers?
Well, like to your point,
that's the question you have to ask. I don't know the answer to that question.
Levante David and Devin White, both available, running mates, right? Like running mates. Yeah. Patrick Queen, running mate with Roquan Smith. To your point, Greenlaw, running mate with Warner. But ultimately, is Azeez Al-Shaair that elite number 1 guy that changes your whole defense? He's not. He's a very, very good number 2.
But no inside linebacker really changes your
What's
defense anymore.
so what's crazy to me is the list of names available in free agency. And I think they're almost all going to be too expensive. So if you can find one of these aging veterans, whoever,
But they can't,
Perriman,
right? Can I say something real quick? But they can't all be too expensive because that's not how the linebacker market is the running back market for the defense. They all can't be too expensive.
Well, that's what I was going to say is if somebody gets huge numbers, Patrick Queen or Devin White or Josie Jewell, whoever is it that gets the big number, it's going to move down quickly. And when you get to whether it's Devin Bush or Perriman or Quan Alexander, there's a lot of guys that have played a lot of snaps who are veteran players who still have stuff left to play for. And at some point, one of those guys is going to get to a price point where it makes a whole lot of sense for the Titans to go get one of them. Because here's ultimately the problem. If you were to put the top 8 middle, I don't have the snap count in front of me, but if you put the top 8 middle linebackers, not outside pass rushers, but middle linebackers, if you had the snap count for the top 8, there's a chance that one is coming back on this roster, and that might be Otis Reese. There's a chance that you have the entire top 8, 3 deep of middle linebackers could all be gone and not on this current roster right now. And again, I don't know if I see anybody on here, especially if Al-Shaair leaves and goes somewhere else.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is okay, maybe you bring over Oren Burks. Maybe you take a chance on being able to rehab Devin Bush. Maybe Devin White, but Devin White really has not been that great. He hasn't been consistent, and some stuff that was going down in Tampa Bay really raises your eyebrows. I mean, Willie Gay Jr., Patrick Queen, I think are 100% upgrades over Azeez Al-Shaair. I think everybody else is kind of the same.
Well, and Queen could cost you more than $10 million. I do like Willie Gay. I think that's an interesting one. I really like Devin Bush's first and second down ability. I don't love his third down ability. And I'm not sure who's the first one you mentioned. I don't like Oren Burks. I don't like him at all in space. I just think he got exposed in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl. So I don't like him. But I think there is something to be said about, you're absolutely right, they have running mates. But there is something to be said about having a true difference maker at middle linebacker, and you don't have to get them in the first round. So the good news there is maybe you trade back and get extra picks.
Let me tell you something. There ain't one in this draft class.
Yeah, I mean, you might be right.
There is no difference maker at linebacker in this draft class. I think that really your best bet is to take a flyer on Nathaniel Watson, the Mississippi State middle linebacker. I'm really liking what I see from his tape. What I saw at the Senior Bowl game that week wasn't that great, but the game was really good. But I think everybody's going to have to kind of this is the one place in free agency, the draft, and the different and the holes that this team has to fill where it does not line up for the Tennessee Titans very well.
No, it doesn't.
And that's why I'm kind of surprised that as of right now, they have not gotten Azeez Al-Shaair, but I think that if I was his agent, I'd be leveraging free agency and the market at this point because I think that he's probably a top 5 linebacker in this free agent class.
I will say, though, to your point about, if you go look at middle linebackers it's like running backs this year in free agency.
Yeah.
There are so many of them available, and if you just are willing to find the guy that you like the most and wait, again, this is just contract
or hate
value.
The least, if you want to look at it that way.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of experience here, and some of these guys are maybe just too old. I get that, but Devin White's only 26. I didn't realize that. Josie Jewell's 29. Bobby Wagner, Jordan Hicks, Levante David, Devin Bush, Patrick Queen, Denzel Perriman, Oren Burks, Ezekiel Turner, no thanks to Zach Cunningham, Shaq Leonard, Willie Gay, Quan Alexander, Jared Davis. I mean, there's so many guys that are available. Could you find the right one and maybe pay $4 or $5 million and overpay by $1 million and get somebody that's sort of down but fits what you like, and then package them with Al-Shaair?
I mean, whoever you get, unless you get Patrick Queen, and maybe they will go spend money on. I think they'll spend money, but I think there's only going to be 2 big ticket items throughout this whole thing.
I agree.
And that's fine. They're your long term. Patrick Queen would be a good big ticket item to spend money on because he's so young and he's so good. Devin White is worse than Azeez Al-Shaair. So
Yes.
maybe he's better in this system with Frank Bush and Denard Wilson than he was down in Tampa Bay, but he's playing for a guy in Tampa Bay, Todd Bowles, who, guess what? Some of the stuff that Denard Wilson will be incorporating is stuff that Todd Bowles runs. And if he can't run it for Todd Bowles, he's probably not going to be able to run it for Devin White. So it's a bad year to need an inside linebacker. To me, the strategy would be don't spend money on linebacker unless it's Patrick Queen. I mean, I agree with Stoney here, says Patrick Queen or wait till 2025. But build your defense knowing you ain't got shit at inside linebacker at this point.
No, you don't. So again, if it's like Willie Gay and Alshire for
I'm okay with that.
$8 million,
and I like Willie Gay.
I
think he's probably a little bit better than Azeez Alshire.
Yeah, I think that's a good
rough.
combo.
It's rough sledding out there for linebackers.
Life is hard out here for a middle linebacker.
It is.
But also, just like safety and running back, which we'll talk about on Thursday with offense, those are the ones that are easiest to find late in the draft. You can find 4th, 5th, 6th round players that are contributors routinely at that position. So
and this draft is littered with linebackers that are day 3 linebackers that have good upside, but you're going to have to coach them.